Can you speak?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Please join the live show.
Good afternoon or good morning. We are at the borderline of morning and afternoon.
Yeah, but I want to.
You want to live on?
Yes, yeah,
All good.
okay. Yes, we are able to hear.
All good.
All good. Thank you. So now
Sir.
the only thing is, that is how you will hear. Yeah, I mean, it's in your
When they're
laptop
speaking.
only you will hear me when
Okay.
he's speaking. And then this
Group here, they will hear.
yeah, if they are sitting on the table, they can hear me.
No, I mean,
No. The audience.
No, these people, yeah. Or these people have to hear as well from what
He's saying. Yeah. But they can. It's coming in the speakers, right?
But I can put the mic on the
yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
Put in the mic on the computer. You're on the screen.
Hello? 1 minute. Okay. Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for making it here. So I'll provide an introduction. My name is Sridhar Srinivasan. I'm also on the board of the university, which we will be talking about today. So I wanted to give a brief introduction to the speakers and what they do. So age-old traditions from our past are finally seeing the light of day. The need to integrate healthy ways into our lifestyle has become more and more important. Padma Shri Dr. Darshan Shankar and his team are working towards revitalizing Indian medicinal heritage through creative applications of traditional health sciences for enhancing the quality of healthcare in rural and urban India and globally. Their not-for-profit trust, Foundation for Revitalization of Local Health Traditions, runs a university, transdisciplinary university, and a 100-bed hospital system. Now, TDU, Transdisciplinary University's mission is social transformation through innovation inspired by Ayurveda, natural and social sciences and technology. Their hospital, Institute of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine, focuses on demonstrating 21st century models for safe, effective, affordable, and replicable healthcare services aimed at wellness, prevention, and disease management through well-researched applications of traditional health sciences judicially integrated with modern sciences and disseminated through quality education by applying their values of honesty, excellence, empathy, and dependability. I happen to be one of the recipients of their treatment at the hospital. IAM does not turn away any patient because of inability to pay for healthcare services. IAM, as in the healthcare center, is committed to extending quality clinical services to economically weak customers at costs they can afford or at no cost. IAM also regularly organizes rural camps for villagers with free consultation in medicine. As we all know, prevention is far more important. Now, Dr. Darshan Shankar, Vice Chancellor for TDU, has been recognized for his work. He is a Padma Shri, as I said earlier, India's 4th highest honor, as well as Norman Borlaug Award winner for contributions in conservation of wild populations of medicinal plants. Dr. Gurmeet Singh is a highly experienced scientist, inventor, and innovator with 25 years of expertise in academia and the food industry. He's currently a professor and head of the Center of Ayurveda Biology and Holistic Nutrition, focusing on sustainable food-first solutions for health, wellness, and environmental sustainability. His work spans various areas, including food analytics, functional foods, vegetarian proteins, and post-harvest processing. Gurmeet also runs a food and beverage startup called Infusions of Goodness and has a strong teaching background. He holds numerous patents, publications, and awards with a background in chemical engineering from IIT Delhi and a PhD from Pennsylvania State University, where he spent a stint teaching too. Dr. Leena Wadia is a dean and professor for education at TDU with years of experience in research. She holds a PhD from IISc Bangalore, a postdoctoral stint at ETH Zurich, an Infosys research fellow with work experience at CERN in Switzerland, CTO at Netcore Solutions, among others. I'm happy to bring both of them on stage, but we will start with Padma Shri Dr. Darshan Shankar sharing some of his thoughts. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan, and my traditional greetings to the ISKCON community. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So I'm aware from looking at this VCC abbreviation that this is a Vedic cultural center, and I am aware by way of intellectual understanding that the knowledge of the Vedas, and that includes an Upaveda like Ayurveda, the knowledge of the Vedas is a Paravidya, is essentially a Paravidya. And what we read then in textbooks and so on and so forth of Ayurveda is, of course, a distilled version of that Paravidya, but really the root of it is in that, and I won't dwell further on this. That's a very, very deep, profound, and complex genesis. The Transdisciplinary University, which I represent, is a unique university which is engaged in demonstrating the contemporary relevance of India's medical heritage. We don't talk about these things, we demonstrate. We demonstrate by giving a broad spectrum overview, by a functional hospital which manages a wide spectrum of health conditions for both improving health as well as disease management. It is not like the Western medical systems, which is only focused on disease management. This is a health center that does both. IAM, as it is called, was entirely funded by Mr. Ratan Tata, and he himself came to our campus when it was inaugurated. Dr. Srinivasan has already pointed out that we are a no-profit organization. We do not turn away anybody on account of economic or on social grounds. We cross-subsidize because it's a self-financing place. So one of the ways, therefore, we demonstrate is through this hospital, a 100-bed hospital in Bangalore. There will be more about this from Dr. Prasanth Shankar, who is currently in an evening time zone in Dublin, and he is the medical director of that hospital. We also demonstrate through a very unusual facet of India's medical heritage that many people are unaware about. We demonstrate the relevance through strengthening the work of village-based traditional healers. There are about 1 million of them all over India, from Ladakh down to Kanyakumari. This is a parampara. So, the beauty of our heritage is that the knowledge was not only confined to scholars and physicians who had studied the Shastras, But the Shastric people interacted very freely with tribals, with villagers, a million of them across all communities, right from Ladakh down to Kanyakumari. So we work with these village-based healers as well across 20 states. And in these village-based healers deal with, they are the kind of last mile reach, not only for human health, of course at a very primary level, but also more importantly or equally importantly for livestock, because we have such a large population of livestock, mainly cows, of course smaller ruminants like goats and sheep and so on and so forth, and even elephants. And so we have that branch of Ayurveda which we call Pashu Ayurveda, and we work across several states applying Pashu Ayurveda remedies which don't use any antibiotics for the treatment of animals. We also demonstrate the contemporary relevance in a way in which we can communicate with the Western world, and this is through laboratories that use biology and chemistry and multi-omics and genetics and so on and so forth to design health foods and uncover the concepts that underlie the complex mode of action of Ayurveda formulations. So more on all these things will be spoken of by my colleagues who will follow me after this brief introduction. The uniqueness of our university is that it is perhaps the only university in the country for bridging Shastra and science. In some sense, you could call it a Vedic university because the Shastra is rooted in the Vedas. And like I said in the very beginning, that we don't talk about this knowledge, we demonstrate its application, and that is the challenge of the day. That if we want to show the contemporary relevance of Indian knowledge systems, we have to demonstrate it by creating institutions that translate that knowledge in a language that the community today or the citizens today in the world can understand, and that happens to be the language of modern science. We have to translate it into that language and then show its contemporary relevance. But of course, there are those who would be interested in learning that knowledge in its own light, for which they would need to know the Sanskrit language, and that is another way. But that is a smaller group of people confined to our part of the world. We believe that this integration of Shastra and science, and I won't get into the detailed explanation of why I say this, but we believe that this integration can actually expand and extend the frontiers of knowledge. So I will end now by just merely saying that we will be happy to offer to the community here in ISKCON help in the following areas. We understand medicinal plants rather well, or reasonably well, let me put it like that. And so we know about plants and agroclimates. We have databases on it. We are the national herbarium of the medicinal plants of the entire country. We can help in designing recipes for health foods, and these will be unique kinds of recipes because These health foods that we are talking about will be designed on the basis of principles of both Ayurveda and principles of modern nutrition. A very important service that is very important today for healthcare is to know your own constitution, your own prakriti, kapha, vata, pitta, permutation and combinations of that, and your state of health, swasthya, to be sthit in swa, samadosha, samadhatu, samagni, samamalakriya, prasan indriya manas atman. So to know the state of your health, how much are you in equilibrium at all these levels. So we offer this service that you can get a checkup of knowing what is your prakriti, and that's very important for deciding lifestyle and diet. And swasthya, of course, it will give you a roadmap to improve your health care. We provide this service of knowing your prakriti and swasthya. Another service is clinical consultations. I know that some of you have sent some questions on specific clinical matters. I'm not sure whether we'll be able to address them in today's talk, but we do offer video and one-to-one consultations, and some things we will try to address, but other things it might be good. Dr. Srinivasan has all our contacts, etc. And you can enter into video or offline, and of course you're most welcome to visit Bangalore. It has a slightly better climate, I think, in some sense than Seattle. Just got extremes of dry, cold and wet, I understand. And we would be happy, and I've discussed this with somebody from ISKCON a few days ago, we'd be happy to offer long-term training in Ayurveda dietetics, maybe training of trainers or whatever form is useful. So these would be the services that we'd be happy to offer. And with this, my greetings to all of you, and I'm sure you will have a good day during this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Leena. Do you want to come over? Thank you, Dr. Darshan. I'm going to share the screen. You can hold the mic, or we can have you. Which one is preferred for you?
Good morning to all of you here, and good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's online. Following up on what Professor Darshan Shankar told you about our university, I will give you a quick, short summary of what we do, and then you will have more detailed presentations from Dr. Prasan Shankar, who's a medical doctor, an Ayurvedic doctor, who will talk to you about health and so on. And then you will also have a presentation from Gurmeet on food and all its related aspects on health and so on. So if you can see this slide, this is a picture of our university, the first picture. The second one is a picture of the hospital and the grounds. We have focused more on the grounds because it's a very unique hospital, because it is landscaped with over about 1,500 medicinal plants. And so it's even as a trip just to see the plants, it's worth a visit. And the last picture is a beautiful picture of butterflies in our garden, actually. So as Professor Darshan Shankar said, we are talking about 3 different institutes here, all of them non-profits. 1 minute, let me try. Yeah. So this is our ecosystem, 3 institutions, all of them non-profits. The first one is the Foundation for Revitalization of Local Health Traditions, which you just heard about. It started operations, it's a trust, it started operations in '93 with extensive work on the conservation of medicinal plants, and also with a focus on community health. Darshan already talked about village-based healers and animal health and so on. The second institution is, and that, the work of the foundation is something that is continuing and is grown into data that we've collected, and now an analytics on data that we are doing, and we are building research activities on it and so on, so it's the base for all the work we do. The foundation also is the parent of the remaining 2 institutions, the Ayurveda hospital, which is called the Institute of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine. It is worth understanding that name. The diagnostic techniques available to us from Western medicine are very powerful. So the hospital uses these diagnostic techniques to supplement the diagnostic capabilities of Ayurvedic doctors based on our Prakriti and our Swasthya, as Professor Darshan said, and then does the complete treatment using Ayurveda. So treatment is purely Ayurveda, but the diagnostics uses Western medicine. So that is why it's the Institute for Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine. It's a 100-bed hospital, research hospital, where we do a lot of clinical research, and it is also an NABH accredited hospital. I'll say the rest later. The university is the youngest and the most recent addition, and it is a natural extension of the work of the trust and the hospital. It's very unique among universities in India and universities anywhere in the world, because it began life as a research university with a strong connect to society and community. Very few universities do that, actually, that they're constantly interacting with society and doing work of relevance to them, actually. And I had the privilege of working with Dr. Kasturi Rangan to write the National Education Policy of India. I don't know if some of you are aware. The new National Education Policy of India came out in 2020. And there we had talked about how universities need to be much more connected to society. And here we have TDU, which is actually began life in that fashion as a research university with a lot of work related to evidence-based traditional medicine, with the intention of establishing the contemporary relevance of Ayurveda. We have, the work of all 3 institutions we have captured in 12 thrust areas, which I will talk to you about. 6 of them are research. And as I said, we do a lot of outreach to society. Indian knowledge systems are the pride and joy of every Indian. And it's a matter of pride to us that Professor Darshan Shankar, you heard from him just now, was supported by Sam Pitroda to start the trust in 1993, and then grow the trust into a hospital and a university in 2011 and 2013. So here's a picture of what we do today, all 3 institutions together. The top 6 boxes, the small ones, are the research areas that we have chosen for the university, and you will hear more about them from Professor Gurmeet Singh. They include personalized nutrition, anemia, sustainable proteins, glucose and lipid metabolism, which is basically diabetes, which is such a big health issue in India and maybe also other parts of the world, cognitive health, and animal health, because animal health is closely related to us because we consume animal products. The horizontals, the yellow boxes that you see, are the work that we have done in the past and are also doing now. It may be difficult for you to read, so I have a second slide which just captures the text of the 6 verticals, which is the research areas, and then the 6 horizontals, which I will tell you a little bit more about. Professor Darshan Shankar already mentioned conservation of medicinal plants. We've been working with state governments to make sure that medicinal plants don't die out. So we have created 108 medicinal plant conservation areas in 13 states in the country. We do a lot of clinical research on personalized healthcare, which you will hear from both Prasanna, Shankar and Gurmeet. We have also been very, very scientific in our approach, in the sense that we are documenting and creating databases of all related to all our work. So this includes databases on food and medicinal plants, on all our work at the hospital. You know, we have an average of 30,000 patients coming in each year. So over the last 10 plus years, we have managed to gather well over 3 lakh medical records, which we plan to get analyzed with help from Shri and maybe some of you here. So we have a lot of databases with us that we are continuing to compile, and we've also begun analytic work on. And Darshan also mentioned revitalization of local health traditions, which is also one of the oldest running activities, along with conservation of medicinal plants. We work with healers in villages. If many of you must have visited India, in rural India, in large areas, you know, the nearest PHC is miles and miles away. So if somebody has a health problem, they have to go to the local Ved. And what we are doing now is that we are working with the Quality Council of India to actually certify, to check the knowledge of these healers and to certify them. The certification helps them a lot because it gives them a standing in their community. The certification helps us and the Quality Council of India because we are then connected to these healers, and we can give them additional information that they need with regard to new things that they can do with the community. So that's a very important activity that we have. And then, of course, we have ethno-veterinary practices. Animals have been managed, you know, agriculture is over 10,000 years old, and we have domesticated animals, and animals have always been managed by ethno-veterinary practices. And more recently, we are using antibiotics to treat animals, and those antibiotics are finding their way into milk and meat products, and we are getting sick. So ethno-veterinary practices is another area where we are doing a lot of work in collaboration with the National Dairy Development Board and also dairy development boards of many state governments. And then last but not least, as a result of our work, last is in education, but we are also in the process of setting up an incubator for so many of our products and services. Some of the products you'll hear about from Professor Gurmeet Singh. And then last, we are doing innovative education programs. Why do I say innovative? Because we're not approaching education like normal universities do, with the focus on traditional undergraduate education, BA, BSc, BCom. We are focusing on our strengths, on the knowledge that we have, and trying to take courses out related to those out into society. So as a research university, we have a very, very strong PhD program. We have for a small university, this is really unique that we have 163 PhD students on roll. We also partner with a lot of scientific institutions in Bangalore to grow our PhD program and do transdisciplinary work. Like the university says, the name says, transdisciplinary is about getting knowledge that is greater than each of the disciplines that go into the work that we do, you know. So that's PhD program. Then we have 2 flagship master's degree programs. The first one is MSc in Life Sciences, which is focused on both Ayurveda and traditional biology, so that the students learn how to think holistically the way Ayurveda teaches us, and also learn how to think in the language of modern science, the way biology teaches us. So these students are very, very important for the future of health and wellness in the country, because they have both perspectives for research and work going forward. We also have an MSc in conservation, naturally, which we partner with an organization called Ashoka Trust for environment and, what is the other E actually? A-tree, yeah. Ecology, yeah. So we have many short-term certificate and diploma programs on Panchakarma. Many of you may have made use of Panchakarma. Panchakarma is like the first step in detoxifying your body. So you go anywhere, you'll get a massage, an oil massage, and you will sleep beautifully for many hours after that. So Panchakarma, acupressure, varmam, ethno-veterinary practices for animal health, even a health of elephants, Hasti Ayurveda, which is so unique for a university to be doing. Ayurveda dietetics, that was mentioned by Professor Darshan Shankar and will also be detailed by Gurmeet, about how to eat right, when to eat, what to eat, and so on. But we also have courses on next generation sequencing and so on. More recently, we have started a vocational education program in which students are learning through apprenticeships. They go to places and spend 5 days a week working there, and on weekends they get classes, and they learn. So they learn a lot by doing. The emphasis is 60% on practical work and for just 40% on theory. So we are doing that with many of our courses also: food sciences, which is run by Professor Gurmeet, culinary arts, Panchakarma, and many paramedical courses. So we have a lot of Norman Borlaug Award for Darshan was mentioned already, but we have many other awards, including the United Nations Equator Initiative Prize, the announcement of the university as a center of excellence by at least 3 departments of the government of India, the Ministry of Environment, and Ayush and Science and Technology, and Columbia University in New York awarded FRLHT with its first international award for leadership in traditional medicine. And of course, both Darshan and Sam are Padma awardees, which is a matter of great pride for us. We have, as I said, many partners for many related areas: molecular biology, NCBS, environment and ecology, A3, Shrishti School of Design, bioinformatics, stem cells, then National Institute of Advanced Studies, NIAS, on natural and social sciences, Purna in education, St. John's Medical Research Hospital, Takshashila for policy, and various others. And you know, the last one is also very interesting. We have even MOUs with dance schools and so on. It's Darshan's dream that we will actually grow into all the areas that we have been permitted to start by the government of Karnataka, ranging from arts and performing arts and social sciences to all the way to traditional medicine and so on. We also have many international partners. And we have worked with many international organizations, including United Nations University and Kanazawa University, Japan, where students came recently, a few months ago, and stayed with us for a month and went back. So we have lots of international partnerships. What we'd like to do is to engage with you all with our work moving forward. We would like some support too. Not everybody can provide support, but certainly everyone can engage with us in various ways in our research, outreach, and educational activities. There are many ways to do it. Here are some suggestions. You could, if you are interested in support, you could support some of our PhD and postdoctoral fellows. You could support some of our programs in community health with all the healers in rural India, or on animal health. This is a tech town, so you could help us with analytics on databases that we have created, or those who would like to do more can support us with building more infrastructure or contributions to a corpus fund. But most of all, we'd like you to engage with us. When you come to India, come visit us. We'll look forward to interacting with you. So I will leave you with this slide. These are testimonials from some of our well-wishers. As Professor Darshan Shankar said, Ratan Tata, built the entire infrastructure for our hospital. And he, like many others, Azim Premji and Shri M and Mr. Saumitra Bhattacharya from Bosch. Bosch is also an organization that channels most of its profits into social causes. They all understand that there is a lot to be learned from the collaboration of traditional medicine with Western medicine for better health for everybody on the planet, not just human beings, but also the planet itself and animals and so on. So I'll leave you with this. Thank you very much.
Is Prasanna next?
Hi, can you hear me?
1 minute.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, Prasanna. Yeah. You should unmute yourself.
Yeah, but you can hear me, right? Now
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Prasanna.
Okay, I'll just share my slide, just let me know if this is.
So Prasanna is the medical director of the Institute of Ayurveda and Integrated Medicine. So we'll be hearing from him next.
No mic required? Yeah, go for it, Dr. Prasanna.
Okay, so is this visible?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, it's visible, Prasanna. Can you hear
We
us?
can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. So firstly, thank you, Sri and VCC at Seattle for giving us this opportunity. I am Dr. Prasanna Shankar, and I lead the university hospital team in Bangalore. As you've already heard from our Vice Chancellor and Leena, the center is called the Institute of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine. And I'll quickly tell you a little bit about this center and its sort of futuristic vision. I believe that some of you will be familiar with the language of Sanskrit, and so therefore I will indulge in telling you a small sutra from a plaque that was unveiled by Ratan Tata during inauguration of this center. And the sutra says that Kritsno hi loko buddhimatam acharya chatruscha buddhimatam atascha abhisamiksha buddhimatam amitrasyapi dhanya vishasyam ayushyam aushikam laukyam abhyupadeshe. So what is basically this verse is from the Charak Samhita, which is one of the most foundational texts of Ayurveda. And this verse captures the very spirit of Ayurveda by affirming that Ayurveda knowledge shall never attain finality. It must be open to constant learning, even from sources that are unfamiliar. So that sort of sets the futuristic vision for our center, because we are, as Leena mentioned, we are an integrative center where we are trying to go beyond systems. We are looking at personalized care. We're looking at bringing different systems to complement each other. So we are moving about a system, but looking at the patient. So we at the center, though we are Ayurveda at the core, but we are supported by systems like yoga very strongly. We're supported by acupuncture. We're supported by physiotherapy. We're supported by need-based, even allopathic medication, and also we of course have infrastructure available for diagnostics like basic blood biochemistry, X-ray, and so on and so forth. At the center, we have a very strong team of over 100 people at the center. Further on, we also have a 100-bed health facility, which is beautifully landscaped with over 1,500 medicinal plant species. And would welcome all of you to come and visit this center someday. The vision of the center is integrative healthcare, of course, which we have just spoken about. And we are trying to create here a model for integrative healthcare, which is safe, effective, affordable, and replicable. So that's very important for us. And we at the center, we work with, of course, preventive healthcare, which we call as swasthya. So the goal of Ayurveda is swasthya, swasthya rakshanam, that's maintaining the health of the healthy, and followed by treating of diseases. So healthcare and well-being is extremely important. We also are, it is our sort of goal to integrate research into practice, and so we, alongside services, also on various dimensions of health, may it be wellness and health, or may it be disease and other chronic ailments. So we have a good team of doctors as well as doctor researchers at this center uh, in Bangalore. So these are our facilities. The facilities in Bangalore, it's a beautiful, it's one of the best infrastructure in South India. Thanks to the Tata Trust and Mr. Ratan Tata, wherein we have over 16 Panchakarma therapy rooms. We have a pharmacy which wherein we make some herbs at our own center, and we source herbs from various reputed pharmaceuticals across India. We have a good yoga team, we have ophthalmology, we have in-house preparation of medication, we have a physiotherapy unit, we have an operational theater, we have a lab, and so on and so forth. And also we have a digitized method of documenting patients and records of patients. These are our inpatient facilities. As Leena mentioned, so we have a track record of over 3 lakh patients or individuals who have visited our health center in the last 10 years or so, with over 15,000 people who have also stayed at our facility. We have more than 800 disease entities in our EMR system. And the database is a rich database where we of course seeking support from Shri and people at Seattle to see how we can use this data, because people have done their doctoral programs on this database. It's a very rich database which can be used for various stakeholders from the management of the hospital to understand patient seeking behavior to conducting various kinds of research. Digging into the data rich database that this system has. And looking at this database, we have also found that we have a few conditions. Our top 10 conditions are enlisted here, which are musculoskeletal disorders, which are the most common kind of conditions that come to us for various types of arthritis, cervical spondylosis, lumbar spondylosis, osteoarthritis, and so on. And we deal with a lot of neurological conditions and neurorehabilitation, where we are dealing with Parkinson's, we are dealing with strokes, we are dealing with other kinds of neurological conditions, ranging from children, that is cerebral palsy, autistic disorders, to the elderly. We have a lot of respiratory conditions that come to us. We have GI-related conditions that come to us. We have a unit dedicated for dermatology. We have a unit dedicated to vascular conditions. We have a unit dedicated to health, swasthya, which is a very important area, health and well-being. And we do a lot of work around health and well-being because that's an important area for us. We have a unit dedicated to eye and related conditions, and so on and so forth. We have, of course, people who come to us from all across the country in India, locally in Bangalore, South India, but we also have people coming from across the globe. And this is just the spectrum of, geographies from where people come to us. As we mentioned earlier, there are two focal areas. We're looking at swasthya, health and well-being, and we're looking at management of chronic ailments. So both these areas are equally important to us. So typically people think of a hospital or a health center dealing with only disease and disease conditions, but we take health and promoting health and maintaining health equally important. So these are our units at the center. We have a good unit for general medicine called Kaya Chikitsa. We have a unit for surgery or parasurgical conditions. We typically deal with anorectal problems, meniscal tears, and so on and so forth, sports injuries. It is called Shalya Tantra or surgery. We have a unit for ophthalmology, wherein we deal with conditions of the eye. Then we have a unit dedicated for health and well-being, which I just mentioned. We have a unit dedicated to obstetrics and gynecology, wherein we deal with conditions like PCOD, PCOS, infertility, menopausal syndromes, and so on and so forth. Also, we deal with prenatal care, pregnancy, and postnatal care. There is a lot of advice to women on diet practices, a whole range of Ayurvedic interventions and advices which are extremely useful during the prenatal phase, during the delivery, and postnatally. We have a unit which is unique to our center, which is dedicated to the care of the aging, or Jara Tantra, or geriatrics. And then, of course, we have a very good unit for treatment of children, or pediatrics. We also conduct programs with our partner in yoga, which is called the KYM, or Krishnamachari Yoga Mandira. And this is a very unique school for yoga because just like Ayurveda is personalized and individualized, we also see that yoga can be personalized and individualized to a person, to an individual. And so we conduct 7-day programs, 14-day programs on educating people about the relevance of yoga shastra as well as Ayurveda at the center. We also have people coming from various parts of the globe who come for small visits to get oriented to aspects of Ayurveda, maybe health, well-being, preventive aspects of Ayurveda, diet, nutrition, and so on and so forth. As we mentioned, our services that we offer are inpatient consultation, inpatient facilities. So we have over 100 beds at the health center. Importantly, we do not turn away any person on account of their ability to pay. So if a person is financially from a weaker background, then we raise support for such patients, and that is our constant endeavor to raise support for patients who cannot afford treatment at a center like this. So every month, every year, we commit ourselves to raising support for people who are economically weaker. We also offer audio video consultation. We have customized in-house program for wellness and chronic ailments. And we also have opportunities for students to do internships at the University Health Center. We also have opportunities for people to enroll for online educational programs on the role of Ayurveda and yoga in health and disease, which we have been conducting for over the last 3 years. We have introduction to concepts of Ayurveda dietetics that has been already mentioned to you. We have integrative childbirth or Garbha Samskara education program for mothers to be, and of course, different types of education programs for yoga and Ayurveda, people who are interested in Ayurveda and yoga. So, of course, we also need help and support. Our vision is very futuristic, and it's a great vision, but we also need help and patronage and support. And so, we deal, as you saw, we deal with a lot of neurological conditions and are trying to see whether we can establish a center for neuro rehabilitation. And when we do integrative rehabilitation, I think the quality of life of people seeking care can greatly be improved as compared to working in silos. So if we work with Ayurveda, with physiotherapy, with acupuncture and other systems to improve quality of life of patients, ranging from children to the elderly, cerebral palsy, strokes, Parkinson's, spinal injuries, and so on. And in an integrative fashion, their quality of life can be greatly improved, and upgrade the facilities to make them more child and senior citizen friendly. We are also looking to strengthen our unit for delivery of the Prasuti Tantra, the obstetrics unit, where we can provide prenatal, postnatal care, training to nurses to deliver normal deliveries. Unfortunately, in a city like Bangalore, where there is so much access to various kinds of hospitals, the number of cesarean sections are only going up, and therefore it is a strong desire to see how we can promote normal deliveries, and that's an important goal as a health center for us. And so this is another area that we would like to focus upon. People can support children. We can support a patient with economically weaker. We can support poor patients. So that's the other support that we seek, and of course help. Help our garden, which is landscaped with over 1,500 medicinal plants, to become more people friendly, children friendly, and improve the facilities by creating parks and areas for walking for elderly and so on. That's something that we're looking for. And of course, more than anything else, we look forward to your support and anytime visit to our center. And this is our team of doctors that you can see. We have a great team of doctors who take care of the spectrum of conditions that we offer at the health home. So with that, I will stop. I hope I was audible.
Yes. So, Dr. Prasann, Dr. Prasann, there is a set of questions for you. So, firstly, can you talk to this group about just Ayurveda and why it's relevant today in modern life? How can Ayurveda be more approachable? Because we all know that Ayurveda is going to be, is useful to us. But what are some of the basic steps? The people here on the live channel, we live so far out in the US. Obviously, we don't have access to these healthcare clinics. What can we do as basic steps towards, making things much more approachable with Ayurveda?
So, it's a very important question and a relevant question. If I heard it correctly, so what is the relevance of Ayurveda in today's context? And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the goal of Ayurveda, if you look at the Charak Samhita, which is the most fundamental text of Ayurveda, the first sutra in Charak says, Dirgham Jivitam Anvichan Bharadvajam Upagamat Sundaram Mudratamamrita Saranyam Namareshwara. The purpose of writing this text was to have a good life, to have a healthy life, to have a disease-free life, and that's the most important goal of ours. And therefore, the whole treatise, therefore, is written to achieve this most important goal of having a healthy and good life. And how do we go about it? From the perspective of course, respecting nature. So it's a very holistic sort of approach. Respecting nature, respecting yourself, understanding your constitution, your prakriti, and how do you conduct yourself, which is called sadvritas. So there are many aspects to it which I'll speak to you briefly about. But so when we speak of health, an individual's health, there are certain parameters that we talk about, and these parameters are, again, I'll tell you the sutra. It says samadosha, samagnishcha, samadhatu, malapriya, prasanna, atma, indriya, manaha, swasthyathya, vidyate. So to maintain equilibrium, to maintain rhythm of the three doshas is extremely important for health and well-being. And how do we maintain this rhythm? How do we ensure that the doshas do not go out of balance is one of the important goals to maintain health and well-being. This can be done by way of good ahar, good dietetics, good vihar, good physical activity and so on, good vichar, good thoughts and so on. And so that's one important goal. The second is Agni, the fire. Sometimes we talk about the fire and it seems trivial, but your metabolic health is so essential and so important to maintain good health, whether it is a child, whether it is an elderly person. The fire is a very sacred sort of aspect of the human being, and to protect it from getting diminished is extremely important, because fire is a sign of good life and diminished fire is a sign of death. And therefore, maintaining your Agni or your ability to digest, metabolize, assimilate is extremely important for good health and well-being, and that therefore is taken as an important biomarker for good health and well-being. It's a very simple method to elicit from the perspective, but it has a lot of depth and a lot of seriousness to ensure that it is maintained. So that's the second important thing that we must strive to do as individuals. Samadosha, samagnishcha, and if you do good, you have good Agni, then you can maintain, you can ensure that your tissues are good. So samadhatushcha, malapriya, having good excretory function, not having constipation and so on is extremely important, and it may seem trivial, but again, simply having prolonged constipation is a sign of many chronic metabolic disorders, and so maintaining good excretory health is extremely important. Sleep, having good sleep is one of the most important pillars for good health and well-being. Manaha, that is having a happy mind, having a tranquil mind, being in equanimity and peace is extremely important for good health and well-being. Prasanna, Atma, Indriya, Mana. And so these are the qualities of health and well-being. And so the whole science is about how do we achieve this balance. And so therefore it is extremely relevant for everyone in this world. I hope I sort of tried to answer that question.
So you did, Dr. Prasann. So let me start with another question. We are all software engineers here. We spend 10 plus hours sitting in desks. Um, how do we, Ayurveda seems very difficult. How do we get ahead of issues we all face as vegetarians, like deficiency in vitamin B12? There is a deficiency of sunlight which leads to vitamin D deficiency here in Seattle area. How do we help? How does Ayurveda overcome these nagging deficiencies in a sedentary lifestyle that we all lead today?
Yeah, thanks, Sri. So, talking about today's lifestyle, as compared to say 100 years ago, there has definitely been a change in the lifestyle patterns of people. People are more sedentary, sitting for long hours, walking less, exercising less, and therefore there is a need therefore to also change our own habits and lifestyle. So, what can one do is the question. Okay, so obviously, so our goal, as I mentioned, is to maintain equanimity of dosha. That's the most important goal. Maintain agni, maintain tissue health, and so on. Now, while we are sitting for 10 hours, therefore we need to ensure that by sitting for so long, we are going to increase kapha dosha. We are not doing enough exercise, agni starts to go down, and therefore it is important that we start to one or two simple things. One is, so when we talk about food and eating, because that's an important part of one of the three most important things that people do is sleep. We sleep 1/3 of our life, and therefore ensure that we sleep well. The other thing is we eat, and you're always all the time thinking about the next meal. And so 1/3 of our life is spending also on eating and thinking about food and aspects of food. And so, for example, breakfast or the meal that you eat in the morning, it's important that you eat it when you're hungry. Because if you eat food when you're hungry, it ensures that the food that you eat is digested well, it is metabolized well, it is assimilated well. Also, the choice of food is important because if you're eating food that is extremely heavy and difficult to digest, and we're sitting for long hours and exercising less, then we're going to have more metabolic disorders, we're going to have more obesity, we're going to have more diabetes, and all the other problem associated with it. And therefore, choice of food is extremely important, for which we can lean back to Ayurveda and see, what is Lagu Ahar, what is easily digestible, and so on and so forth. And therefore, that's something that Ayurveda can give advice to. Coming to these deficiencies and aspects of deficiency, so there's no direct mention of this in Ayurveda, but it is important therefore to integrate and use technology and today's advances that are available in medical sciences to diagnose it in time. And while vitamin deficiency of sunlight gives you 90% of vitamin D, it's only 10% that you can get through supplements and other medical sources. But so exposure to sunlight and being outdoors is also important. But if you have a deficiency, you might require to take help from medical doctors to give the appropriate deficiency that is there in the system. So also with other forms of deficiencies, and if there are deficiencies that are known, and we know that there are foods that can help in these areas, then we should take appropriate advice. But also it has been observed that simply maintaining good metabolic health and agni, as I said, sometimes has been observed to indirectly contribute to maintaining many of these deficiencies and preventing them and improving them, which has also been observed.
So, Dr. Darshan, the other question would be, Ayurveda is all about personalization. You talked about the doshas. How can laymen like us here get to understand what are our doshas and what should we do as, because a lot of it is what food do you eat, how do you eat it? It's such a complex science, yet there are certain simple things. There are foods we eat on a daily basis that may not be good for us. So how can we as laymen, lay people, take the first steps towards, getting into such an old science that has so much relevance today?
Right. So, Gurmeet is there, and he may be also able to add. Unfortunately, I'm not there in person, but you see, one of the things to understand is, so we can look at two aspects. One is your own constitution, so to say, which is useful to know what is your prakriti, and for which you need a physician to analyze you and assess you. Also, we have a tool, the prakriti. I mean, you can assess. There are about 160 questions that this tool have, and one can know your prakriti. Now, if you were to classify population in Ayurvedic view, we would classify population into 7 types: Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and its combination. And so knowing your own prakriti is useful because it helps you understand yourself, it helps you understand your own nature, and therefore plan not just food but also activity and other things, what kind of work that you do, and so on and so forth. So it helps you plan your life better. And one might think it is trivial, but as you start progressing life, I think it makes more sense to people. They start to realize this. And so by knowing if you are a Vata Prakriti person, then you know what kind of food choices that can be made, because there is a set algorithm in Ayurveda. If you are a Vata dominant, then there are certain kinds of psychophysiological sort of traits that you may have. And therefore you can plan for what kind of food that you eat. So for example, a Vata Prakriti person has, his digestion is more erratic. They are typically lean and thin. They sleep, but their sleep may be erratic. They have rickety joints. They're more prone to arthritis in the long run as they grow older, and so on. And therefore, the food that they eat should balance Vata. So, for example, milk, ghee, food that are typically sweet, sour, and salt are more advised as compared to food that are more astringent. So, if you're eating food that are dry, like peas, you're eating a lot of corn, and so on and so forth, it is going to aggravate Vata. So simply knowing your prakriti helps to plan the kind of food that and meal that you may plan. And
So, Dr. Prasan, we'll have Dr. Gurmeet go next. Now, the thing I will share here with this group is we are coming out with, we do have the questions in a spreadsheet. We are turning that into an application that will help you analyze yourself. So we're trying to figure out, is self-service possible? Do you need a doctor? Things of that sort. So as more information comes about in figuring this out, I think we will obviously reach out to the community here. Dr. Gurmeet can talk more. This is an appropriate time for us to switch into Dr. Gurmeet's topic, which is much more around nutrition and what you can do. Is that fair? Yeah. Dr. Gurmeet? You have about 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
I'll stand and speak. I'm a scientist, a teacher, professor, so from a university, so more used to standing rather than sitting. Yeah. So firstly, thanks for being around here. Yeah, and I'll talk on one of the aspects. Going to put the slide deck on. Yeah. Right. Our university works on a number of areas, or a select number of areas, right? Things like, Leena mentioned the chart, right? That we have 6 verticals, right? Where did we arrive at those 6 verticals, right? We looked at what are the health needs of India and health needs globally, right? What are the big challenges, right? What are the big challenges today? I was just reading an NDTV article today, yeah, because apparently this is the festival season. There's a lot of Garba nights having in Gujarat, and I think about 10 or 20 people died yesterday, right, doing Garba from exhaustion. It's thought that it's from exhaustion and different. I mean, all over Gujarat, it's not one pandal as such. And this ICMR data our doctor was quoting that we have to be very careful and make sure that people don't over-exert themselves. But the data he was quoting was 11% population in India is diabetic, right? 11% of 1.4 billion means about 150 million people diabetic. So it's about 15% are pre-diabetic, which is about 200 million people, right? 36% of the population is hypertensive, right? That's about 400 million people, right? 50% of the population is obese, right? And here we think of that India may not have enough food, right? So That's 700 million people. So you can think of the kind of health challenges that we are facing, right, in India, and the data globally is not too far off, yeah, from there. So that's a challenge that modern science doesn't have an answer to today, right, clearly. We have some things, metformin, right, statins, etc. They are effective to some extent, but we do not have a holistic, right, that we could address these issues, and therefore our medical expenses are going up and up. The healthcare budgets of the governments are simply inadequate to deal with this level, right, of. Similarly, another area you can look of is anemia, right? Oxygen, our life is, right, our breathing, our oxygen, that gives us energy, right? For that, oxygen needs to be trapped, and for that we need hemoglobin, and hemoglobin at the heart is iron, right, which is able to capture that oxygen and take it to the various sites where it will get used up, right, to produce energy. If we do not have sufficient oxygen, yeah, we are lethargic. If a country needs to be, an individual needs to be productive, a country needs to be productive, it needs enough iron in the blood of the humans that populate that country, right? And you know the level of anemic level in India? Anybody, any guesses? What % of population is anemic in India? Nearly 50% is the latest survey of the government, right? Last year. We do a survey every 5 years. And what we see is we have not changed over this latest one which came out versus 2017 which came out. We are not able to make an impact, right, on, even in spite of the iron capsules that we give, right, when people are anemic. So these are big challenges. Proteins, right? Protein is so important to life because protein is what goes into muscles. If we don't have enough muscles, where do we burn up all the sugar that we are eating, right? Muscle nahi hai, so where will that sugar doesn't know what to do once it reaches the body. So we need muscles, right, to burn up sugar. People feel in this muscle-centric view of health which is coming up that muscles are so extremely important. It's not just the six-pack that Shah Rukh Khan needs to have for a movie called Jawan, right? But all of us need good muscle tone to be able to, take care of, to burn the various carbohydrates and fats that we have in our body. So 50% of, so proteins is extremely important, right? Our population is also, while we today think of demographic dividend in India, that we are a very young population, right? But that young population in a few years will become an over 60 population. Today we seem to have a nice pyramid, right? With young people at the bottom, very few senior citizens. But the Economic Survey of India is suggesting that another couple of decades, we'll have 250 million people above 60, right, to begin with. Cognition or cognitive decline, right, is a key concern, right, which needs to be addressed. And there are hardly, while it is not there, the others are at least in the public debate today, right? Proteins, anemia, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases. Cognitive decline is not in the debate today, right? And there are no easy solutions there. They are even more difficult than the other solutions, right? And so we need to start doing research and finding solutions and how those solutions will be affordable, accessible, adoptable. That's not a trivial challenge, right? So these are some areas which are the global challenges. I'm saying these few areas only and not there are others also, but these areas I'm mentioning because these are the areas that our university has decided to focus on. You always need to focus on a few areas. You can't do everything under the sun. So from a research perspective, these are the areas. And why these areas? Yeah, one, because they are India concern and global concern. But also these are areas where Ayurveda has a lot of ideas, hypotheses, solutions, right, that they work on. So it gives us a very solid starting point, right, to start researching. As a university, our goal is to research, right, and look at things critically. So we look at these areas critically, right. Now, we mentioned Prasan mentioned, Darshan ji also mentioned this shloka that is so important. So how do we approach this whole area, right? So he said, sama dosha, sama dhatu, sama agni, right? Sama malkriya, right? Prasanatma, indriya, manas, right? So where do we begin in this room if we wanted to start? Okay, let's look at explore Ayurveda. Where do? So the beginning part, sama dosha, what does that mean, right? Modern science, Ayurveda begins with body typing. Right? Today, latest in body typing is, if you look at modern science, what is the latest body typing? I'll get myself genotyped. Right? I don't know how many of you have done genotyping, but today a lot of people are doing their genotype because that types your body. Right? Ayurveda looks at the other ways of typing in modern science as well, like epigenetics is there, etc. So Ayurveda, interestingly, is the oldest way of body typing is there in Ayurveda. If you look at all the texts, and we've read a lot of them, in Charaka Samhita, it's outlined about 140 phenotypic characteristics, right? So which is phenotypic is what are the characteristics of my body? Are my joints creaky, right? Is one phenotypic character. Is my skin dry or oily? Is one phenotypic character. And such 140 characteristics, which are all biologically, physiologically related, behaviorally related. So there are various 140 such questions. How do I respond to change in temperature? How do I respond to spicy food? So those are very relevant because they give you an understanding. So 140 such phenotypic characteristics, very scientific phenotypic characteristics, because all of them have a relation to either a gene or epigenetics in it. Right? 140 phenotypic characteristics which are clustered into 3 dimensions, which are called Vata, Pitta, Kapha, right? Those are 3 dimensions of balancing. So if any of you want to start off on this journey, the first thing that you need to do is get yourself body typed, right? As extensive a body type as possible. The easiest to do without almost spending a dime is get yourself Prakriti analyzed. And as Shri mentioned, we're trying to convert that into an app so that people can do that as a first thing, do it on their own, and then begin on this journey. Right? The other things then, Sama Agni, Sama Dhatu, right, Malakriya, etc. So if you want to work on your health, you need to begin with where are you today? And where do you want to go? Where are you today requires an assessment which we call as Swasthya assessment, right? So we need to figure out where our Swasthya is today, and we've developed in our university a 11-dimensional scale, 11 components of health, right? And about 10 questions on each one of them that helps us understand. We give a score, we call it a quantitative descriptive analysis, right? Which is that we are converting a description of our health, because I go to a doctor, I say, oh, main so nahi raha achhi tarah se, I'm not sleeping well, I'm getting constipated. These are descriptions, right? And for us to be able to tackle in today's world where we can apply AI and ML to these things, we require a little more objectivity. So we worked in an area for about 20 years, which is called quantitative descriptive analysis, having worked in a company, Unilever, where we use it all the time to describe a cup of tea, right, and convert it into actionable items. So that analysis we are using now to quantify our Swasthya on 11 components of health. We call it the Swasthya score. So combining then our body typing, which we call Prakriti analysis, with Swasthya analysis, right, along with the food we eat, right, because how do you tackle this? Now you know your health, right, your current status, you know your body type, right? What is the remedy? Where do you want to, the target is set, how do you move forward? Ayurveda says there are 3 things that it suggests to move, 3 components to move forward in life, right, to address health and move in a direction you want, whether it's preventive, promotive, or curative, right? And those are Ahar, Vihar, Aushadh. Ahar is the food we eat, right? Why Ahar first? It's an intervention, daily intervention for all of us, 3 times every day. So that intervention becomes the first intervention for all of us can be addressed. Second is Vihar, the lifestyle, right, that we have. third is Aushad, right? And Aushad has two parts, right? Aushad has the Rasayana also, right? Rasayana are, you can think of as tonics or supplements. And then there are the formulations, which are the medicinal, right, part of it. So that's the sequence of things, and all three components are important if you want to start on this journey, right? So our program, the slide deck maybe if...
Yes, I can move the slides for you.
Yeah, yeah, ठीक है. So I'll talk about the first component, the Ahar component, right, in the next few slides or so. Not talking about all the programs that we do, that would take too long, right? But let's talk about the Ahar component, right? And we call this program as Food Futures for Holistic Health, right? And this is food first solutions, right? Which is why Ahar is first. So food first solutions to our health. Yeah, do come in, please. Feel free to come in. Yeah, maybe we are scaring them away. Yeah, the children. But yeah, so food first solutions. But where are these solutions derived from? Right. So Ayurveda, where do we derive solutions? That's a very interesting concept. Where does Ayurveda derive its solutions from? It derives its solutions from ecological resources, right? Our ecology, local ecological resources, things which are available around us, right? And that's a very unique model, right? It has a global framework which will be applicable anywhere in the world. But the resources that it uses are very local resources. And so built in there is conservation, right? The way to scale up is a global framework with local resources that people, the community is accountable for, preserving and using and studying and building upon. So it's a very unique model, right? So there is the associated traditional knowledge which comes with these ecological resources. So it's this combination of resources around us, right, and the knowledge that we build through continuous, study of those. Right? Today we think of, if I look at even the ministry, right, it looks at almost Ayurveda as a static knowledge. It needs to be in Charaka Samhita, right? Then it is Ayurveda. If it is not Ayurveda, right? Charaka Samhita, there is a shlok in there. Knowledge can never be complete. We need to keep bringing knowledge from everywhere, no matter where in the world, incorporate it, study it, and build into this framework, right? But we today think it's static. It is not static, it is dynamic. I'll give you one example of dynamic that we found, right? I mentioned that brain health, there are a lot of ideas in Ayurveda, right? And Brahmi Grita is one. Yeah, very popular formulation. Brahmi is the plant, Grita is ghee. And so therefore, you infuse the actives of Brahmi by taking juice. So you take 4 liters of juice of Brahmi and put it into 1 liter of ghee. Right? And then you boil off all the water, you filter, and you have a activated ghee, right? Which is called Brahmi Grita. So that's the recipe given in the earlier texts like Charaka Samhita, which are about 3,000 years old. They're about 500 years old. There is a text, very popular text, again a very well-respected, it's called Bhaisaja Ratnavali, right? Where they talk of a recipe, an intermediate step, right? Where they said that you take the ghee, first you infuse the juice of amla in it. Amla, and there are 5 other botanicals, right? And this they call as murchit ghee. The process is called murchan, right? Murchit ghee, right? Then you take the juice of Brahmi and you put it in, right? We started wondering why this change in recipe, right? Why the earlier recipe, what happens? We started deconstructing these recipes. And I'm a chemical engineer by training, so my thinking was if I put a lot of juice, which is water basically, into something, into an oil and start heating it to remove it, I'll destroy the oil, right? It should get rancid, oxidized completely. Right? Ek baar cook kiya, so we should throw it right away. Right? We are cooking stuff with a lot of moisture in there. If I'm putting aloo to make a pakoda, what is it? There's a lot of water that I'm putting in. After a few, half an hour of use, I need to throw it. Here I'm putting 4 liters of water into it and heating it, so it should get destroyed. And yes, the earlier recipe of Brahmi Grita, it was, right, boundary depending on how quickly I'm heating it, I would be at parity or I would destroy it. But if I treat it with amla, the newer recipe, the stability went up by 4 times. So if ghee is stable for 6 months, became stable to almost 2 years, right? Without using any stabilizer in there, right? So Ayurveda has these things built in, and that deconstruction has given us an idea that we are now looking at, hey, is this the solution for natural antioxidants? Today the world is looking at natural antioxidants because all of us use oil and ghee in our homes, right? But oil and ghee are unstable. Ghee is the most stable, so 3 to 6 months life, right? Without any antioxidants added or preservatives added, whereas oil only about 30 days or so. Will get rancid, right? One of the most toxic things in our food is rancid oil and rancid ghee, right? That we need to take care of, extremely critical. Right? We were discussing that in the morning as well. So any oil which is sold in the market, whether labeled or not, contains natural antioxidants. Molecules which are called BHA, BHT, TBHQ, tocopherol, they are in there. And we've been using them for 60 years, which is why today, if you read the date for an oil on the pack, it will be about 2 years of shelf life, 1 to 2 years of shelf life. It is simply not possible without antioxidants in there, right? So, but 60 years of usage now, there is enough evidence which is building up that these small amounts of BHA, TBHQ, BHT build up in our body and are probably not good for health, right? But there's no alternative. So the governments cannot ban that, stop putting this, because then it's worse. The oil will be stable only for a month, right? So there is no solution. So it cannot be taken off. There are many such things where there are no solutions. And though while there is enough evidence, it may not be good, we cannot do anything about it, right, for time being. But there is research going on. Are there natural antioxidants? We felt that, hey, this treatment with amla, could amla be the magic, right, in there? What is the magic in amla which is giving stabilizer? And we have a master student working on that topic today. And we were looking for if we could get funds, etc., but create a whole program on, get PhD students involved, because these are long-term programs, right, and they need to be built on. But there are these interesting ideas which are there, which I call as Ayurveda chemistry. It's not just Ayurveda biology and medicine, but formulations itself, right, are so important. So those are some of the things that.
Your time, but you've used up your time already.
Yeah, I'm already.
Yeah. So maybe
So yeah.
Q&A. Yeah.
Talk about the iron, which is the big issue here. Let's talk about the iron.
Yeah, so there's another interesting concept on, you mentioned anemia, right, is there. 50% of India is anemic, right? So what do we give if we are anemic? Typically, anybody has consumed iron tablets, right? Typically, if someone is anemic, below 8 hai to 100 milligram iron tablet with some folic acid, IFA, it's called iron folic acid tablets, are given. Women in India, when they are pregnant, my wife as well, was given like on a daily basis for 3 months, take this capsule, right? Now, what is the iron requirement of the body? 1 milligram per day, right? Because iron is something which is extremely important, but extremely toxic. The most toxic thing in our food probably is iron, but it is also the most important thing. Right? So there are parts of our body which are designed to stop iron from taking up. Right? It says, I don't want it. And there are parts which are saying, how do I take it? How do I avoid this guy, immigration person who's not allowing iron in? How do I beat and smuggle some iron in? So there are two different departments working opposing each other, right? So the smugglers trying to get it in, and once it comes in the country, there are enough people who are trying to hide that iron, right? Aa gaya, abhi, how do I put it in so that nobody can detect it? That's what we call hemoglobin, right? We put it into a big box and hide it in there, so no police officer can come and deport it out again, right? So it stays in there. So this 1 milligram ke liye, we are giving 100 milligram tablets, right? And iron, only a small amount is getting absorbed because only 1 milligram is needed, only that much can cross the boundary, the rest is thrown out, right? Just like immigration, exactly same. Most people are now rejected. So rejected means where is it sitting? In our gut, because I've taken it, sitting in my gut. Because the clearance time in the gut is 2 days. Whatever I'm eating today, right, stays in here for 2 days before it comes out. as fecal matter. Right? So 99 milligrams of iron sitting there from today's tablet, 99 from tomorrow's tablet. Right? So there is a huge amount of iron sitting there. And iron is like what I call as a Gatling gun, which has become very popular in movies, etc. No, Gatling gun fires bullets, that big gun that you may have seen in movies, Salman Khan in Tiger 2 or whatever, right? And so iron is like that. The bullets are reactive oxygen species. It's firing in left, right, center, right? And so if you are having iron, right, it's sitting there and firing this reactive oxygen species that can cause a lot of damage in the gut. It has not gone into our bloodstream, so it's not really entered into our body, right? There are two spaces, the gut, the pipeline, which is not really into the body yet, right? And then inside, once it crosses the intestine into the blood, that's the second part. So it's there, and if I look at Ayurveda, the solution always seems to be that whenever you have iron, right, because there's a condition called Pandurog in iron, which has symptoms very similar to anemia. Because if you remember Pandu from Mahabharat, his complexion was very pale, right? And Pandurog, one of the interpretations is anemia, right? And he was so weak, right, that he was advised not to exert at all, right? Not even have kids, right? So that his kids are all through Kunti and through other gods, right, rather than, because any exertion would kill him. And that exertion killed him eventually, right? So that's how critical iron is, for us in the body. And having excess iron can be an issue. So, yes, Ayurveda also prescribes iron, right? Iron bhasma and other things which are available at that time. But almost every formulation has a lot of what we today call kashaya-rich ingredients or polyphenol-rich ingredients, such as amla, right? And what does amla do? Amla quenches any reactive oxygen. It's an excellent quencher, one of the best quenchers. So advice for everyone, right, as we research it more and more, in the interim what to do? Yes, everybody, we do eat supplements, many mineral supplements, right, which have similar properties, may not be as harmful as iron, but they are going to be sitting in our gut because it's a big bolus of supplement that we use. Have a lot of quenching material in your diet, right? Amla is very good quencher. Pomegranate is a very good quencher. Triphala is a very good quencher. A lot of the berries that we eat today, right? It says have a lot of berries, blackberry and this berry and that berry. They're all very good quenchers in there. So have quenchers in your diet. And here is another siddhant of, right? And every time you eat a meal, you need to have quenchers with it. So it's not sufficient. I had my berry fruit in the morning because you're going to have a meal afternoon. There'll be firing of reactive oxygen in the afternoon, then at night. So Ayurveda has this rule which is called as Shad Rasa, 6 Rasa Ahar. All the 6 rasas on a plate every day with every meal, right? Why these 6 rasas? Because there are some rasas, right, which will give nutrition, but will also create reactive oxygen species, and you require the quenchers along with them. So while your madhur rasa, right, salt rasa, right, sweet, sour, salt, bitter, astringent, pungent, the first 3 are important for building life, but they will also create a lot of reactive oxygen species. The other 3 will quench them, right? So having all those in a diet are extremely important. But what we have do is because of our taste preferences, we've been breeding out the last 3 rasas from our fruits and vegetables, right? We don't want bitter fruits, we don't want astringent food, we don't want too much of pungency in our food. We've been breeding them out, right? So in focusing on, can I make my apple sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, right? Whereas apple was very high, it was like amla, an apple a day, right? But maybe for today, with so much of sweet apple, 5 apples a day probably I want, right? And that may kill myself from other things, right? So we need to make sure. So today, if there is access to amla, I would suggest have an amla a day, right? An amla marabba, an amla pickle. We are trying to create amla into very easy to consume biscuit kind of snacks. One chip that you can have with your food, etc., that may suffice, right? So those are some of the ideas that we are working on. There's a slide we could go to. Maybe it just shows the last slide. Yeah, this slide. So there's a number of ideas that we're working on in terms of products, right? Which could be used, right? And that little, this little thing in the second picture, yeah, on the other side. This one, right? These are the chips that we have. It's Wrigley chewing gum kind of size sticks, 4 grams each, 8 grams, 2 chips. If you have that, you have 1 amla. You have 30 grams of greens in there. So it takes care of 20% of your iron plus an amla in a very delightful, simple snack. Doesn't add calories to you, doesn't add other things to you. So, and we tested that in a community in Nilgiris. Why Nilgiris? Because when we checked the blood of 300 people in Nilgiris, we found that 295 of them were anemic. I mean, can you imagine? 50% I said India, but that district, right, seemed to have a huge number. So we have selected that district. We are working with local organizations there, the Healers Network, right? Healers, there are about 1 million healers in India. There are about 600, 7,000 villages in India and about 1 million healers. So about 1.5 healer, right, per village in India kind of thing. 1 million healers. And if we can leverage this network, these are called Paramparik Vaidyas because they are not Ayurveda Vaidyas, but they've been handed knowledge down through bone setting, snake bites, simple fevers, right, etc. We said that if we can leverage them and bring them into the mainstream, certify them, train them for some of the other things which are widespread, maybe we can solve the unsolvables, right, the things which have not been solved. So those are some of the ideas that we are trying. We've created a database, right, of food, integrative database, where we had Ayurveda scholars look at about 34 classical texts, right from Charaka Samhita to about 15th, 16th century texts, and mined them for, they said, read them and identify shlokas which refer to food, right? Yeah, I'm just ending with this example. And so they identified shlokas for food and curated about 2,500 shlokas. Then for 1 year, we had the Ayurveda scholars, Sanskrit scholars, and botanists sit down together and said from these 2,500 shlokas, identify what are the food ingredients, right? It's not a simple task, which is why it takes time, because something as simple as turmeric will have 50 names, right? How do you know which name, right? Which word in the shloka is the name of food ingredient? That has to be curated. Everybody has to agree. Which food, which modern name, which one of them is curcuma, longa, right? So that's a very detailed exercise, and we collected about 900 such ingredients from that. We looked at the modern repository that we eat, etc. Total 1,500 ingredients. And we then have 220 properties of each one of them. We have their amino acid profile, their fatty acid profile, their protein content, carbohydrate. But we also have rasa, guna, virya, vipak, dosha karma, dhatu karma for each of these. And the recipes to cook. Now, Ayurveda recipes are very interesting. Today, if you open a recipe book, I'm guessing everybody's seen a recipe book. It tells you how to cook, how many grams of something, ek chammach and do this. Well, Ayurveda doesn't end with that. It doesn't actually give you exact how much chammach or but it tells you ratios, and it tells you which season to eat, what time of the day to eat, what are the health benefits of that, who should eat it, what body type to eat, what to eat it with, the food pairing, right, and what not to, the Virudh principles, etc. There's a lot of additional information which comes with it, and we've created a database which we call as our in silico engine for designing functional foods and personalized nutrition algorithms. So a big program on personalized nutrition. If anybody is interested in that program, maybe the last slide where you can note down some of our contact details. My email is there, right? There is also a YouTube channel where we are beginning to put some recipes, so you can take a picture of this slide. And I also exist on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram as Tea Scientist. So if you wish to follow, you can, right? But do reach out, and we can enroll you in we are beginning to start our personalized nutrition program. And we'll do a Prakriti analysis, a Swasthya analysis, your dietary, what are we eating, and from there start making recommendations of what to eat more of, what to eat less of, and start on this journey of personalized nutrition, right? And from there we can then build on once that's achieved, any specific needs for diabetes, cardiovascular health, or other things where the physicians can come in. Okay, so I'll stop here if there are any questions, because I'm already been, she has been trying to point out you're over time. Right?
So are there any questions we can take here? And yes, go for it. Yes.
Prakriti, right? You said 140 questions. Where do I get that questionnaire until the app is ready?
If you get in touch with, just send me an email.
Okay.
Right? And
Actually, why don't we do this? We'll publish it to the
so we'll have a person get
So we'll publish it to the WhatsApp group. Okay. As to how to do it before the app. Okay. And
we'll do a one-on-one right now. Okay. Sure. Someone will get in touch with you and have a half an hour session with you.
Okay.
And come up with your
we can actually run a session for just the Prakriti side of things.
Okay.
And see who is interested. You can join. Yeah?
Absolutely, great.
Okay.
So once we find it out, right, especially living in a place like Seattle, and already it was touched upon, where we don't have sunlight for about 8 to 9 months of the year, and it's really cold. I mean, naturally, most of us are from India, used to warm weather, and here we are living in cold weather. So how do we adapt our bodies to, even once we know the Prakriti, right? Is there a difference between following the Prakriti in India versus following the Prakriti in US? What other tips do would you suggest for people living in a place like this where its body is just cold for 8 to 9 months of a year?
Yeah. So yeah, there would be tips, because I mean, as I said, the framework is global, right? Because it relies on a few things such as what's the temperature, what's the humidity, how will tomorrow be versus today, right? Fluctuating conditions versus steady conditions. There's a steady drop in temperature, humidity, increase, etc. So it looks at all those things. So the framework is global. So no matter where you are, I think for places like Seattle, which are way out of where this theory was evolved, there may be some experimentation, right, to begin with, there'll be some hypothesis and some leap that we may have to do and some tests we may have to do. But certainly the framework is there, which we'll be able to guide. But these vitamin D and sunlight things, I live in a very sunny country, right? My vitamin D is like 25% of what it should be, right? Maybe because I wear full sleeves clothes, I have a beard on my face, and I don't know what, but it's not just here, no, it's local.
So I'll add to that my own personal experience. Obviously, I live here. I spent about a week earlier this year, beginning of this year, I had a lot of medical conditions. And I'm now on a personalized nutrition plan, which is being iterated. To your question, we are still learning how to deal with Seattle weather constructs. But I ended up not only losing weight, which is about nearly 9 kilos, nearly 20 pounds, but I have nearly given up all Western medication in the process, which is the advantage. So I would highly suggest, there is one more individual who wants to talk about his experience, but basically I would suggest as much as possible where you can make food your medicine and live life holistically, the better you get, right? So how can you think about eating the right foods? Because I was actually thinking I was eating the right foods with a lot of things that were in my diet. I ended up parking a lot of them in the end, which changed who I was. So it's very personal, which is, to be honest, the difficult part of Ayurveda. Personal meaning what might work for you is going to be different than what is going to work for your wife. So I'll pause there. Any other questions we can take?
Yeah, one question. Say, for example,
Yeah. Okay.
thank you for sharing the knowledge. See, how to get, if at all we need to get more consulting and all, on certain cases.
Okay.
It's not only food habits, but if at all we are having some
Medical issues.
medical issues.
So I'll take that. I will publish through Jaipal Prabhuji and Damodar Prabhuji. I'll publish how to get in contact. And it's quite easy. You can, it's best if you can visit India, but it's not feasible for 99% of us to be there. You can do virtual sessions, but I will honestly tell you one thing. In Ayurveda, the most important thing is for the doctor to feel your nadi. And without that, it's very hard. But you can have, obviously, discussions, of who you are, what types of food work and do not work. And we can obviously connect you with all these doctors.
Just a follow-up question. In Seattle, anyone is there? We were
We
representing.
don't know.
Okay.
No. Jaipal Prabhuji, there's a mic.
So you mentioned we need only 1 milligram of iron, right? So, but doctors are prescribing 100 milligrams, and we have been taking. So how do we do now? Should we adapt this and then stop them?
No.
Tablets completely, or?
So I'm not saying stop them, right?
Okay.
What I'm saying is have an amla a day.
Okay.
Have the quenchers along with it.
But still continue the tablet?
Still continue that,
Okay.
right? So, but do increase the number of quenchers. So amla is one, I said, triphala is another one, pomegranate another one. If you are okay with sweet, that doesn't, then drakshasa, the dried raisins, right, is another one. And there are a number of such kashaya, jamun, right,
So you
etc.
should add after every meal, you suggested?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. At least have it daily, right? If not with every meal, it becomes difficult. If possible, with every meal, right? Or make it a part of your
Thank you.
food habit. The question was that should I stop supplements? Yeah.
What does a quencher do?
What does the quencher? It quenches the reactive oxygen species which are generated, right? Which is what is the reactive oxygen species? Maybe I'm getting a little scientific right here. You could think of reactive oxygen species are the harmful side of food. When we feel stressed, right? When I'm not getting enough sleep. Even simple things like when I'm breathing, right? That respiration, all these good things will also, the bad things like stress, etc., but the good things as simple as sleeping, as digestion, etc., produces, there are chemical reactions which happen, and there's a good part to that chemical reaction and there's a bad part. It's unavoidable, right? The bad part is unavoidable, comes along with the good part. But your diet needs to have things which can absorb the bad part, right? The reactive oxygen species are the bad parts which are generated along with all the good parts. It's a way of life, right? And our normal food, when we say, right, iska food ka dosha, if you look at analyzed chart, we've analyzed a lot of food from our hospital food, the Vaidyas versus people. What we realize is that our normal food is a lot quenching food, right, that we have in our diets. For every kapha increasing food ingredient we seem to have, if I look at the analysis of the hospital diet, there's one kapha reducing ingredient to counter it overall, right? For every pitta increasing, there seem to be 2 pitta reducing. And every vata increasing ingredient, there are 3 vata reducing, which tells me that vata is probably the most critical one to, right, to control. So that's the composition of our daily food, right? And if you have supplements which are very enriched in a certain content, then you need to have stronger quenchers such as, and amla is a quencher which has almost no side effect. It is a food. Why do I keep saying amla? Because there are only 11 foods in Ayurveda which can be consumed on a daily basis. The rest it says you rotate. It's not that don't have, but diversify. Those 11 things include things like water, salt, honey, right? Amla is one of them, but they are like rice, almost at the top. Then there's wheat and barley. There is mung dal. There is meat of arid animals, right, is one. Ayurveda doesn't, the 20% of recipes are, right, are non-vegetarian in Ayurveda. So meat is one. And then ghee, milk, honey stroke sugar, earlier version honey. And then sandhav namak and akash jal, so which is rainwater. At that time there was no distilled water, so right? And amla, right, is there. So amla is, that's why I keep saying have amla on a daily basis. I'm not saying have pomegranate on a daily basis, etc., or berries, because this seems to be, but I know it's difficult to procure here, which is why some of the other rotate them.
But amla powder?
Amla powder, dried amla.
Amla in any form is what he's suggesting. Obviously, fresh amla is the most. One more question before Aarti starts. Yeah.
Is there any positive grains or neutral grains or like negative grains? Can you throw the light on the positive grains or negative grains?
On the grains,
Yeah,
right?
grains.
Yeah. See, on the grains,
Because what we need to eat, and then either we need to take all of them with the balance or something.
yeah.
Is there any equations in that?
So See, each grain has a different property. So as I said, rice is the most common. I mean, if I look at database, right, our database of the various recipes, when we search for rice, there were 400 recipes for rice in the database, right? There were about 60 for wheat and 60 for barley. There were about 6 for millets, right? So it's the International Year of the Millets, but Ayurveda doesn't seem to emphasize use of millets. So millets, only a certain season. Typically from an Indian context, I can see after the winter season, the spring season have millets because it is what is called as lekhanya dravya. It is a rough dravya. It will take out any excesses that you have built up during your winter season, which advise that hey, that's the time to have a lot of ghee and a lot of sweets, etc., and build up your body. And then if you have overbuilt for any purpose, or if you have a kapha profile, which may lead to issues, that's the time for the lekhanya dravya. So that's millets, right? Rice is something which can be had throughout the year, but there are specific seasons for wheat and specific reasons for barley. And so everything in Ayurveda, the one unique thing about Ayurveda is that the food is on what we call as 3 rhythms of life, right? The dinacharya, the daily rhythm of life. There are foods which should be had in the morning versus like curd, as an example. Morning time is better than night time, right? Then there is a ritucharya, right? Curd again, winter time is better for curd than summertime. Summertime is for buttermilk, right? Curd is in winter time. So that's the ritucharya, that you have to adjust your food according to the seasons, right? And then of course there's the life stage rhythm that for each decade there are certain things that you have to consume and change. So it's not just what to eat, because if you look at the back of the label of any food product, it says so many milligrams of iron, so many milligrams of this vitamin, this calcium, so many calories, so many proteins, so many carbohydrates, etc. Right? But Ayurveda is actually saying that adjust it. It's not the same for every season. There are seasons where you keep it light. There are seasons you make it heavy. Right?
But some people, they say that one, you should not take the negative grains. You can take only positive grains.
So we can have a follow-up session.
Yeah. Right.
So we are running out of time. Jaipal Prabhuji has suggested a set of formal follow-up sessions.
Follow-up Zoom call we can have.
Yeah.
Please bring all your questions. We'll have follow-up sessions, and obviously we'll have sessions on the, deciding your prakriti and things of that sort. Okay. Thank you so much today. Thank you, Dr. Leena, Dr. Gurmeet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Sridhar Prabhuji, for organizing this, and it's very useful. So obviously we have lots of questions, so we'll have follow-up sessions. So we are looking forward for the follow-up session.
Thank you.
Thank you.